So here's what's up. Johnny Supertramp responded to the video that Jason fucking Boss made, basically calling me and him violent criminal psychopaths with zero evidence, by the way. God, he's so constitutionally sound. But I love what Johnny says right about here.
He had zero information about anything, including where to find his own dick.
He was leading the charge against child trafficking. Unirock, and we have Johnny.
Not seeing the truth.
Take a listen.
And then what do we have? We have Unirock, and we have Johnny Supertramp. We have pedophile gatekeepers.
We have constitutionalists who like evidence, who like due process.
Exactly. What I said is that I believe Kappy's story. When it comes to Seth Green telling him a joke, that one joke about, this is where we keep the children. I believe Kappy. I believe that that Seth Green, the only other thing he claimed, which was that Seth Green, Kappy asked what they were having for dinner, and Seth said, I believe it was, he said they were eating some kind of chicken, and you know, Kappy took it as if like a paranoid schizophrenic would. Do you realize, I don't think Kappy would be dead if it wasn't for the internet shenanigans. You get me? Because, like, I'm possessed. Whoa, Busy's got me. If it wasn't for the internet shenanigans, imagine Kappy being around his family, not streaming, not reading all the crazy things that people are saying to him on Periscope. Imagine if he didn't go on Lift the Veil, right? And he didn't get pressured from all these guys to come tell the story and to, why would Kappy, who probably joked worse than Seth Green did that night, all of a sudden think Seth Green was saying that? Most likely from some type of mental problem. You got to be schizophrenic. You got to have a problem if you're going to, you could see his mental health change. People saying, well, he probably was on drugs. Well, he might have been, but he might not have been. It could have been that he wasn't even on them, and it was just his mental state was degrading. Because if you look at the last couple scopes he did, his mental state was degrading. You would think that these guys, instead of sitting here and fucking with everybody that tried, there has to be people that stand up and warn people. You guys are turning into a satanic panic type of group. There has to be people that warn people. We need to stand up when people do this and say, listen, you can listen to Kappy. You can ask him questions and support the guy. The last thing you can do, though, is throw hate to Seth Green. What did people do as soon as Kappy told his story? They mobbed Seth Green's Instagram. They mobbed Seth Green on Twitter. You know what else people did? Remember when they told the entire PG story came out? What did people do? Mob Podesta's Twitter, mob Podesta's Instagram. You get me? It's a very powerful tool. If somebody's like a famous person and they got a lot of followers, you can pretty much guarantee that you're going to get them to shut down all their social media just by having somebody do what Kappy did. Now, I'm not saying, God, the only thing we know, though, there's another huge piece to this puzzle when he's pictured hugging David Brock before he went to Australia. A lot of people don't understand why that's so massive. It's because David Brock is a professional online troll for politics and for, what does he say? Progressivism. Even though you would think somebody who espouses progressivism and progressive ideology wouldn't do that kind of thing online, because that's very anti-progressive to do that, because it's not about a concept. It's not someone truly sitting down and thinking, how should the world work? How should things be? What's right? What's wrong? If people sit down and think hard about what the best thing to do for our society and our country and our goals, they don't come to the conclusion of guilty until proven innocent, and they don't come to these other crazy conclusions that you need to go troll people to win in politics. You don't need to troll to win in politics if you are going around giving speeches and speaking intelligently with the country in mind and with our goal, with our society in mind. You don't need the trolling. I think Kappy was used by some powerful people. But what are we starting to find out who the powerful people are? Yeah, Clinton and all those guys, they're pretty evil, they're pretty powerful. But the thing is, they're in their bubble, they're rich as fuck, they don't got shit to worry about. But Do you want to know that there's another bubble of powerful people that are affecting a lot of people? And it's, Brock and all these other guys, and using these YouTubers as like, how it's just as bad as people like Jake Paul and Logan Paul. People bitch at them, but they're influencers. They make a lot of money and they sell a lot of brands because they'll sell a lot of tea. They sell a lot of freaking shirts. They sell a lot of like branded stuff for companies. So that, these guys are influencers. Well, so are people like Jordan Sather and Lift the Veil and those guys. They're just influencers, and they don't admit it to you because it goes against their brand. They're just influencers that kind of like, they are doing the same act, the same thing that Jake Paul and Logan Paul and all those guys are doing. They're just doing it while hiding it. They're doing it while speaking against it.
Who like the way our government is supposed to work.
And they can't.
And I have to massively agree with Johnny Supertramp, and I don't understand why Boss doesn't get it. I think he purposely is not getting it. Have you ever heard one of these guys say, I understand Unirock and Johnny's position. We understand the position that, yes, you can listen to Kappy, you can discuss it with him, but you can't go around lobbing hate towards the other side, because you can't just pick a side to believe out of nowhere, especially a side that has barely any evidence at all, just his own words. If you're being logical, if you're being fair, if it's not politically motivated, if it's not a narrative, you're going to say to yourself, well, there's just as much reason to believe Green as there is Kappy, or Kappy as there is Green. So we just have to stay, neutral on this. That's what I've been really saying to do the whole time. Although there are reasons for me to believe that Mikey has lied about his story. When it comes to Kappy, I think he's lying when he tells you that Seth Green is a blank. Even if Seth Green is one or isn't one, Kappy does not have an amount of discerning information to make that assumption or decision. Do you get me?
Came out of the woodwork.
No,
Matthew said pretty evil is still evil. There you go.
I've been around for 4 years making truther videos, unlike you. And I think Unirock's been around longer than I have.
Oh, I've
Right?
been around.
And
I've been around for about 3 years, I think. I think Johnny's been here a little longer than me.
Cartoons about Isaac and Mikey and Lift the Veil and all this stuff. I mean, these guys effectively have hurt somebody's life.
I can't wait to hear what Johnny has to say on this.
I've actually got a whole new series of cartoons about you.
Right?
Yes!
Imagine what a world would look like if we had support. Imagine what these kids could have.
So do you see the agenda does come out? Imagine what we could do if we had support. This is just a tactic to use on an audience. Tactic number 1, get them to believe some crazy conspiracies about Kappy. Tactic number 2, make sure to confuse them as much as you can about Kappy. Tactic number 3, play the victim card. Tactic number 4, make them be an enemy. Make there be an enemy. There needs to be an enemy in this. The enemy is the ominous they that did this to Kappy and Johnny Supertramp and Unirock. Then the end point he just let slip out, guilt people into thinking this wouldn't have happened to Kappy if we would have had support. What's support to him? Money. We could have saved children if we would have had support. This is a multi-tiered propagandistic rant, whether he means to do it or not. For God's sakes, he could just have it in his head. This is what I need to do, and I'm going to guilt the audience, or he could be specifically meaning to do this. But either way, that's what the intention is, and that's what's going to happen to people that watch this. It's setting up a narrative. I just explained the narrative. Bad guy. This wouldn't have happened if not for this. Kappy was a superhero. You should have believed everything he had to say. Now that Kappy's gone, and a lot of stuff is going to be deleted off the internet, which is funny because there was a page that hosted a lot of Kappy's videos, and it got completely taken down after this happened to Kappy. I find that very strange. But you want to ask me, if you say to me, is it likely that Kappy committed suicide? 50%. Likely that he actually did himself in. 50%. Well, what's the other 50% that somebody else did? And if you were to ask me, who do you think has the most motivation to do Kappy in? I wouldn't say the deep state. And I wouldn't say Hillary Clinton or Seth Green. I would say the troll group. Because if Kappy goes bye-bye, they get to do this. This is pure evil. You want to say I'm evil for criticizing Kappy while he's alive? How evil is it for these guys to lie and agendize and, warp around Kappy's demise for their own gain. And he just said it. Why is he even talking about monetary support when he's talking about Kappy's demise? Why is he talking about monetary support? It's literally insane. Now, if he, like sometime in the show, if he'd say, hey, if you like my show, then I wouldn't give a shit. Because that's not what I'm saying. He's not saying, hey, this is my internet show. Do you want to donate? Here's the link. That's not what he's saying. He's saying, you need to feel guilty. We could have done some good work if we would have had money. Well, guess what, boss? If you wouldn't have let Mikey run up all those bills, you could have used that money and donated it to Kappy. You get me? Anyway, it's just so dumb. It's so ridiculous. You can't even logically think through this shit. It's so dumb.